Greetings and thanks for joining us once again. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. The focus of today's conversation is the Tesla Semi. So as you know, the vehicle was introduced at about 100 count last year. And, the first customer being Pepsi, but the real first customer has actually been Tesla and its production operations. So we wanted to take time to review where we are and where we think we're headed with that vehicle at this time. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Thanks once again for joining us. If this is your first time, welcome. If you're a repeat visitor, welcome back. We also want to thank our Patreon supporters. If you enjoy the show and would like some better information on investing and trading, please join us on Patreon. And we also wanted to encourage you to like and subscribe, and any comments you might have would be appreciated as well. So today's show, I believe, will go left field in an interesting way, which I hope you'll enjoy. The first thing I wanted to do is sort of a review of, well, where are we? You'll notice the photo on the front shows the location of the Semi. I thought the $3.5 billion factory was going to be built certainly in Nevada, certainly in northern Nevada, but likely away from the current gigafactory there that primarily produces batteries. So the unusual news that popped up is that they have figured out how to carve out space next to the current gigafactory there for batteries so that they can create a new factory that'll be producing 4680 batteries as well as the Tesla Semi. So I actually think this is terrific news. The second bit of information is that I did some research and determined that in the last 50 years, there has been no auto plant that has been completed in less than 2 years. So what this suggested then is that we just started the groundbreaking, and based on the groundbreaking starting now, we're 2 years away from the Semi coming out of that factory. And it's unknown what the sequence is. Is it going to be the 4680 battery, or is it going to be the Semi that's completed first? It seems that those batteries are going to be used in the Semi, so it's a large project, therefore, with two different types of batteries being produced. Now, I have to say, I think this is a surprise, because the thought was that there would be lines that are producing the 2170 batteries that would be converted to 4680. That way you could increase 4680 production within the same factory, no production issues. So I'd have to say this is a surprise. Now, I have to say I'm also surprised by the new timeline for the Semi. We were told by Elon that we'd be at about 50,000 in production of the Semi by the end of 2024. At this point, we've got for sure 100 trucks that we started with, and at the sort of test factory for the Semi, it was said that there was something in the 2 to 5 vehicles a week that would be produced, but it looks like we've kind of shut down production there and are really just doing beta testing of all the Semis. So as a result, one, we know then that the Semi is 2 years away from scale production. Two, we know that there won't be any scale done or starting for this year because you just don't have the factory for it. Now, three, I had a chance to look through factories from MAN and a couple of other manufacturers, and every aspect of what Tesla does within a production facility for cars, that is, bending metal for the exterior, all the internal parts and components put together and then brought with batteries to a completed vehicle. So one of my big surprises on this whole deal is that right now, Elon/Tesla has a process going where they're producing, the plan for Semi is perhaps, 50,000 vehicles a year. And, I guess it's a bit of a surprise because the number of cars you can produce within the car factories is way above that. And particularly if demand is soft, there's a possibility you could slot in the production of the semi side by side with cars, or stop car production, switch over to semi, come back a week or two later and continue with car production. And it wouldn't be a big deal because we do have some heavy price reductions and drop in demand, but there's no drop in demand of the semi. So therefore, I'm proposing the idea of, well, why not just produce semi, in those factories? The next thing that I was surprised by in terms of what we're doing is, from what we can tell, maybe it's within $500 million, maybe it's $1 billion. Most of the factories put up by Elon slash Tesla all have a similar initial price tag around $3 billion. And the difference is when it comes to car production, you're running at very high rates of production, whereas the production expected out of the semi is actually kind of low. So I believe, based on watching Tesla for a long time, we've entered something I want to call the Tesla semi vortex. So what exactly is that? Well, Elon explained that there's an issue happening right now. And we've reviewed this on numerous occasions on our show. And that is that the battery pack for a semi is something like 6 or 7 times what currently goes, take a battery pack for a Model 3, for example, multiply it by 6 or 7 times, and now you have a Tesla semi battery. So one of the interesting questions popping up is, if you're charging, let's say, 200,000 to 300,000 per vehicle, but it would be the equivalent of $1 million worth of cars, why bother producing a battery pack that sucks up that many batteries but yields so little profit? And so I believe this is the main reason why the Tesla Semi has been delayed so much. So I just think that that vortex of, hey, we can do this, but it's not a very profitable car, is confirmed by Elon. So therefore, profit's an issue, revenue is an issue, key growth of the company is an issue, then the Semi keeps getting delayed in that process. And I'd have to say I'm a little bit surprised, because there are facilities for producing low volumes of the Semi available now, and that has been producing, but Elon doesn't want to make it a priority. And I kind of think it makes sense, because it's a low profit margin, low volume vehicle, even though it does have a great impact in other ways. The other thing to note here is that there seems to be a process we're going through where anything that's not delivered to customers, in this case Pepsi, is being utilized in ways to enhance sort of the carbon footprint of the company. Namely, we now have trucks that are carrying vehicles that are the Tesla Semi. We also have parts moving between the Gigafactory and other factories in the Bay Area with the Semi currently. And it just seems that the priority customer currently is Tesla. And it seems as though what's going to occur is we keep feeding new semis into inventory to be used within the internal system of Tesla. And so therefore, customers are out of luck if they want to see that vehicle sort of now, and won't probably see them for another 2 years on the scale production that we talked about. I'd have to say I'm also a bit surprised, because there's a lot of companies like Walmart and some really powerful companies that have put money into and have been waiting for the Tesla Semi. And the fact that they're not showing up like this, I just think it gives the company a little bit of a black eye. But I'm hopeful that those large players don't start suing or get angry and go to Plan B. Now, as part of our update on Plan B here, some information just came out that the longest range sort of domestic to the United States Semi that's out there is coming out from Pakar, but this is a number of companies have gotten up to about the 300-mile range on their semis. And we also have a situation where we're using e-Cascadias from a subsidiary of Daimler-Benz, Freightliner, to do drayage or move sort of containers from the Port of Los Angeles inland with their own charging facilities down there as well. So it looks like the competition really hasn't closed the gap very much. Yeah, they were at 200 to 250 miles. Now they're up to 300 miles, which is decent. But not really competition for the semi. And the answer is there's a lot of technology that Elon and the semi have available that they do not. So therefore, they're still in a stuck position relative to outdistancing Tesla. The next thing I wanted to review is also the bankruptcies. There are a number of companies, Proterra comes to mind, and others that have suffered the going out of business fate. Evidently, there were fires at another competitors that resulted in those companies being shut down. This brings us to one last piece of our discussion that we wanted to focus on today, and that is fires. Ever wonder why it is that a lot of the companies that do batteries in this space tend to separate themselves from other parts of their companies? And the answer is fires. It turns out that there's a process where, in order to not have a fire wipe out an entire company, it's a wise move to have them separated by a decent amount of space, so that if a fire occurs, we don't end up with it wiping everything out. It just wipes out one portion of what would be production. And the integrated photos that are out there of the current Gigafactory suggest that, yeah, we're blending building cars and batteries in the same building, etc. So I'm hopeful that this doesn't end up being a aha moment where it turns out to be a bad idea to have the batteries carefully integrated with cars, and then the batteries end up costing you an entire manufacturing facility. So, long-winded statement to say, yes, the Tesla Semi is coming. Yes, we do have in Sparks, Nevada, next to Reno, the groundbreaking that did occur. No, we're not going to be on time, but because the groundbreaking is occurring, I think we will see this vehicle happen, but in a delayed process that we've seen for a long time. And then finally, I'd have to say, I'm excited to hear that 4680 is moving forward in terms of its own large-scale production being built out, which means that they've stabilized it and it's going to make a nice contribution in terms of cost reduction and all the other benefits that were associated with the larger form factor of batteries, as well as sort of the structure of the battery helping carry the weight of the car or vehicle, reducing weight in this manner. At any rate, I want to thank you for taking time out to join us. Glad to hear the Semi is going to happen at scale, but like I said, do not expect it in a timely fashion, but it will happen, and it's still a great vehicle that's in development. At any rate, we want to thank you for taking time out to join us. We now move over to our health tips for the day. So I wanted to note to you that we kind of did a survey of perhaps 200 doctors, and out of that group, 70% of them were doing some sort of fasting. The one I like most is the 50% of the clock process, where the whole idea is that you eat on half of the 12 hours of the day, but not on the other half, giving your body an opportunity to recover from the eating. And now we're off into your next day. But there are a lot of fasting schedules that you could look up on the internet, but I wanted to cover it today because we noticed a lot of folks using it effectively. At any rate, I want to thank you once again for our Tesla Semi update. Have a great day. Just au revoir, la hiprot, hoda hafez, zdravstvuyte ni hao ma, rebroadcast, namaste. And in Jamaica, we say enough respect, walk good man. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day and say goodbye to the semi. And we will be back next month with new details as we have them.